Welcome to r/MaliciousCompliance, where we share stories of people conforming to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story: Karen wanted to close my salon, but I closed her salon. The second story: homeowner did not allow planting sunflowers, so the client planted corn. The third story: bad neighbor wanted me to pay fines, but in the end she was evicted. Today's first story is: racist Karen calls the cops on my cousin, so I get her business closed down. Background: my cousin, 23 female, recently opened up her own salon. From a young age, she taught herself how to thread and wax eyebrows and developed an interest in makeup and hair. Everyone in our extended family would go to her before events and on a monthly basis for their threading, waxing, hair, and makeup needs. In 2020, she had a full-time job, non-salon related, but decided to renovate the basement of her home to create a small salon space. She now spends her free time taking clients in her at-home salon, and there's nothing but great reviews. Her sister helped with the renovations and now helps her with marketing the business, social media, community pages, and I help with the finances, budgeting, price setting. We all support her and are really proud of her. The salon is our baby. We're now in the middle of a pandemic, and this greatly affected her salon business. As a result, she implemented safety measures, and our small team made sure to keep up with COVID regulations in our city. This included having one customer inside at a time, doing temperature checks, making masks and face shields and gloves mandatory, wiping down the salon after each client, etc. Also, when our city was in lockdown, the salon was closed, as it's not an essential service. Incident: our city is once again in lockdown since the end of December to the end of January. The salon has been closed since the lockdown began. The salon's social media pages had been updated to let the current clientele know that the salon is closed. Now comes the Karen. Karen sees a community post from October detailing a discount that the salon was having on a certain package we offer. She comments on the post saying that she can't believe the salon is open in the middle of a lockdown when her salon has to be closed. This is important for later. Karen fails to notice that this post was made in October, when salons were allowed to operate as long as they followed safety regulations. Karen doesn't bother checking more recent posts, indicating that the salon was closed. My cousin doesn't see her reply at this time. The next day, 2 police officers show up at my cousin's door while she's at a doctor's appointment. The officers ask for my cousin, and my aunt lets them know that she's not home right now. My aunt does not speak English very well and lets the officers know that she would call my cousin and ask her to come home. Maybe the officers didn't believe her, but they insisted on coming inside the home. My aunt had already called my cousin as she was worried. My cousin asked what it was about, but my aunt didn't know. My cousin then asked if they had a warrant for anything. When she found out they didn't, she told her mom not to let them come inside and that she would be there in about 20 minutes. My cousin began driving home when my aunt called her to let her know that they simply left. Hearing this, my cousin was less worried and decided to go grocery shopping as planned before heading home. Turns out the officers came back half an hour later and once again demanded to see my cousin. My aunt called my cousin again and asked her to come home, but in the 20 minutes she took to come home, the officers were gone. They had left a card and asked her to call back. My cousin managed to get a hold of the officers and was told that someone had reported her business. They claimed that she was operating during the lockdown, and they had proof. My cousin knew this wasn't true, as the salon had been closed for quite a while. By now, my cousin had seen the comment from earlier and mentioned that she knew exactly what their so-called proof was, but the post in question was from October. My cousin was very upset, as this post was not even close to being actual evidence of her operating now in January. She was also very upset that they insisted on coming inside the house with no cause or warrant when they could clearly see that my aunt does not understand the language very well. At the end of the conversation, the police officer apologized to my cousin, and we thought that was the end of it. You must be wondering how she knew that Karen was the one who called the cops. Well, she told us. The next day, my cousin received a message she realized was from the woman who commented on the post. Karen decided to pretend like she's a customer. Karen: can I book an appointment? My cousin: hey love, we're currently closed due to the lockdown. Once the lockdown is over, we'll be more than happy to book you in. Karen: oh, my girlfriend was there yesterday. My apologies. My cousin: you must have gotten the date wrong. The salon's not taking clients until the lockdown is over. Thank you. Karen: NP, but I didn't get the date wrong. Haha. I also know the police came due to you being open. Take care. My cousin, I'm not going to sit here and entertain your boring life. Maybe for a change you can find another hobby, rather than spreading lies and wasting people's time, including the police's time. Or even better, find an actual job. Have a good night. Karen, I own my own spa that's closed as yours should be. My mom is the one who called the cops. You're not entertaining me at all. Go back to your own country instead of effing with ours. My cousin decided to block her at this point. My cousin was happy this was all over. Her sister and I were still outraged at the racist comment and how someone could make up lies about a small business that led to the cops terrifying my aunt. When my cousin told me about Karen, the fact that she had her own spa really stood out. I did some digging. Revenge. Turns out Karen runs her own spa out of her house. Doing some more snooping, I found reviews from her clients on her business page that were posted on days that the city was under lockdown. The reviews could be from clients who received services before the lockdown and only now had a chance to write a review. To be sure, I found Karen's Instagram page. I decided to use her own trick against her. I created a new account with a generic name and followed her page so she couldn't see that I was related to my cousin. I then messaged her to ask about the prices for her services. Me, hey, I love your pics. I was wondering how much you charge. Karen, hey girl, thank you so much. What service are you after? Me, I'm really interested in the BB Glow facial. Karen, that's awesome. My biggest seller for sure. Normally it's $125, but it's on BOGO, so you pay for one session and get two. Me, that's such a great deal compared to others. When's your next available date? Karen, where are you located? I can't have people come to me in lockdown, but I travel to my clients. Karen was not operating from her home location due to lockdown restrictions, but was traveling to her clients' homes, which is still against regulations. I then made up a lie about my home not having adequate space and asked for her address so we could meet up at my friend's place somewhere between her and I's locations. She foolishly told me her address. During my snooping around, I noticed her business had quite a lot of similar services. During this time, I also tried joining other community groups that she was a part of. In one particular group, people in the community were promoting their small businesses. She had recently made a post about discounts on her services for the month of January. I immediately went online and submitted a report about her business still operating, including screenshots, her address, full name, etc. A few days passed by, and I'd forgotten to check up on it as I was busy with life again. I saw the incident report number on a sticky note I had on my desk and decided to check in. Apparently, this was not Karen's first offense. Karen had already been fined $750 for having a client in her home during the first lockdown in my city. After being fined, she decided to change her business model and go to the client's home instead. Now, she was fined $10,000. I was still following her on Instagram, so I decided to check it out. She had gone on a rant about how she was going to do very bad things to the person who reported her. She also mentioned that she was no longer allowed to run her business. I'm not sure what type of ban the regional police put on her, but I immediately deleted the account and exited the groups I had joined earlier. At the end of the day, Karen got what she deserved, and I fulfilled my dream of pretending to be Sherlock Holmes. The second story is, won't let me plant sunflowers? Fine. Story happened a couple of years ago, but it's my favorite lawyer story, and I hope you enjoy. Client walks into the office and asks us for a contract review. He then hands over an HOA contract. Before slogging through a whole HOA contract, I ask him what he was hoping to accomplish. They want me to dig up my sunflowers. Your sunflowers? Yes, I planted a row of sunflowers outside my house. They pranced by and said that sunflowers are not allowed, per the contract I signed. So I want you to tell me if that's true or not. Sir, before anything else, I need to tell you that this will likely be an hourly fee bill. HOAs are notorious for dragging things out, so these could quickly become expensive sunflowers. I don't care. This is America, and I should be able to plant sunflowers, G-Diet. Still thinking he wasn't that serious about sunflowers, I asked for a 3-hour retainer. He immediately pulled out a checkbook and paid for 4 hours. So I buckled down to review the alleged anti-sunflower clause. Just for reference, the sunflowers he wanted to plant were really big, 5 feet, and all along the front of the house. It was a very substantial amount of sunflowers. The contract did indeed contain a clause with a very thorough list on which plants were and were not allowed to be planted. The list had just about every plant I could think of, in alphabetical order. Think apple, banana, cauliflower, dill, sunflowers included. Corn was not included, which becomes very important later. Quick legal point, if you write no dogs allowed, it's normally assumed that you're talking about all dogs generally. If you write no labs, golden retrievers, or poodles allowed, it's normally assumed that all other dogs are allowed. Sometimes a not great attorney will write a super long list to pad hours, read charge more, instead of just writing no plants without prior approval or something. I called the client back for the bad news. In explaining the above legal point, I let him know that the HOA got a raw deal from whoever drafted the contract. No can do on the sunflowers. But if it makes you feel any better, they were probably overbilled by whoever wrote this contract. Pretty shoddy work too. They even forgot to write down corn, but they included nonsense like dragon fruit. So, yes to corn, no to sunflowers? I didn't really check the contract for corn, but it's not prohibited in the plant section, so probably. Excellent, that'll work. I thought he was oddly happy with bad news. Then 2 or 3 weeks later, he came in with a picture of his house, surrounded by huge sunflowers. What happened? This guy drove out to the country and bought obnoxiously large and ugly corn stalks. He promptly planted them where the sunflowers had been. When confronted by the HOA, he told them, paraphrasing, to suck it, the contract lets me plant corn. Then after some negotiation, he agreed to take the corn down, in exchange for permission to plant sunflowers. Now, we are friends, he's still a great client, and he lives surrounded by a ridiculous moat of sunflowers. The last story is, don't touch my stuff. In college, I had a randomly assigned roommate that I did not get along with at all. Our personalities were just on 2 opposite ends of the personality spectrum, and we clashed. The only things we had in common were that we went to the same college and lived in the same apartment. That's it. Anyways, it was a nightmare living situation. The apartment had 4 rooms and 2 bathrooms. She and I shared the same bathroom as our rooms were next to each other. We had 2 roommates on the other half of the apartment that we both got along with. After over 8 months of just pure passive aggressiveness towards each other, like I would put sticky notes on her days-old dirty dishes, and she would put my wet laundry on the floor, she decided to report me to apartment management for bullying her. Honestly, we were doing it to each other. However, the apartment management took pity on her because I was tall and athletic, and she was 6 inches shorter than me and very thin. She claimed I physically intimidated her, and she was scared to live with me. She did this because she wanted to move to a new apartment without paying a $500 fee, but instead, the apartment issued a written warning. The warning stated that we were not to touch any of each other's personal belongings without written permission. First infraction was a $250 fine. Second infraction was a $500 fine. And a third infraction would result in eviction. I was so scared walking out of the office because I could not afford those fines, and she had the biggest smile on her face. I knew that she would immediately report me. I went back to the apartment and she left for work. I was mortified. Then I realized she made a huge mistake. Everything communal in the apartment belonged to me, and she was a super moocher. I told my other roommates what had happened and they were shocked. I asked if I could use their bathroom temporarily, and they said of course. So I immediately emptied out everything that was mine in our shared bathroom. Shower curtain, toilet paper, rug, towels, soap. I grabbed my magnetic whiteboard and listed out everything in the kitchen that belonged to me. Plates, cups, mugs, pots, pans, silverware, coffee maker, toaster, pot holder, towels. Literally listed every single item, and said that she's not allowed to use any of it without my written, no text permission. I also drew some eyes to remind her that everyone was watching. I popped that whiteboard on the fridge and went into my room to do some homework. Later, she came home from work and had a meltdown. She screamed. Not any words, just a blood-curdling scream. In the following couple of days, her father came to the apartment to threaten me that they were getting a lawyer. Haha. She bought her first roll of toilet paper and a plastic shower curtain, but it was too much for her to handle. She went back to the main office to report my bullying once again, and was instead told she could either deal with it or pay $500 to move to a new apartment. She moved out 7 days after the warning was issued. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you liked it, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button.